Good Wednesday afternoon to you. Hope you're having a great day. Thanks for joining us on Sports4CLE. Plenty of Browns and Ravens to talk about today. A little later in the show, Tim Bielik from the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com will join us as we dive a little deeper into that Browns-Ravens matchup. That's also where we begin. Some news out at Berea. Anthony Schwartz back in the facility, in the building. Still in concussion protocol, so very much in doubt is Anthony Schwartz. He would be somebody that could help the Browns stretch the defense, but so far unable to clear concussion protocol. Malik Jackson with a knee injury, Jarvis Landry with a knee injury, Harrison Bryant with an ankle injury, also not practicing. Bryant ruled out of the game by Kevin Stefanski today, so there's a pretty good possibility that the Browns will be down two tight ends, both David Njoku and Harrison Bryant, for the game against the Ravens, a game they very much need to win. Kevin Stefanski talked about the bye week adjustments on offense today.
You do come out of the bye with things that you want to augment and adjust and those type of things, but you can't do all of them at once, and just to do that would probably be doing a disservice to your offense, defense, or special teams. So there are definitely things that we identified that we want to do better. I think that's obvious. But we also got to make sure that we're doing it within the scope of trying to get a win this week. Ultimately, we're trying to find ways to be explosive, and whether it's through the ground or through the air, that's what we're searching for. How we play and how we call it is always based on that opponent, that game, what we feel like gives us the best chance. So it's certainly something that we start talking about, on that Monday when you look at your opponent and you look at you and you say, all right, how do we want to handle this game?
Let's welcome in the D-Man, Dennis Manoloff from WTAM News Radio 1100, 106.9 FM. So D-Man, let me ask you, do you put Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt on the field at the same time? That's a way to create some problems and some mismatches for the defense and to possibly be more explosive.
Yeah, and let me just say this first, Dave. I appreciate Coach Kevin Stefanski talking about wanting to be more explosive, but I'll settle for efficient dinking and dunking, especially against Baltimore. What did we see? The previous matchup, the week before this bye, the Browns were unable to do pretty much anything on the ground against that vaunted 8-man front that Baltimore always runs. It's not like it came out of nowhere. You're limited anyway, I think, in your explosive capability, given your wideout situation, given your tight end situation. To me, your best weapons on offense are Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. So they need to see maximum snaps. Well, how do you utilize them? If you struggle to run against the vaunted 8-man box, why don't you do dinks and dunks out of the backfield, extended handoffs? Get Kareem Hunt into open space with screens or swing passes or arrow routes or flares or something. I mean, one of the numbers coming out of that Cleveland at Baltimore game that was stupefying to me was that Kareem Hunt had 0 catches for 0 yards on one target. I mean, I can understand Nick Chubb not being targeted. That's not his game as a wideout, but he wound up having 2 catches. But Kareem Hunt is a guy who is able to hurt defenses with his pass-catching ability. Why the Browns didn't utilize that is one of the many mysteries of that offensive stink bomb in Baltimore.
The other thing I would say, D-Man, is that the wide receiving core, for whatever reason, is not performing like people thought it would. Everybody thought we had so many, we got a great wide receiver room. Their performance has been lacking. Well, one of the things you can do is you have some guys that can play in the backfield. Not only Kareem Hunt, Demetric Felton, you could put Dearness Johnson there. So if you're worried about keeping somebody fresh, go with 2 backs and keep rotating them through. So in the fourth quarter, you can still have those guys fresh. It's about looking at what you have as offensive weapons and kind of being honest. So far, the wide receiving core has underperformed.
That's true. And not only that, you're not sure what you're going to get out of Baker Mayfield. I mean, he says he feels better after this bye week. Okay, great. But we still, I mean, if I'm Kevin Stefanski, I don't know what kind of quarterback I'm getting. let alone who he's going to throw to get these so-called explosive plays. I would focus on what assets you have, and you correctly pointed out, it's not just Chubb and Hunt. It could very well be Felton and Dearness Johnson as well. Who are the guys who are capable of giving you good plays, just good plays on offense, and extending drives by getting a 3rd and 3 rush for 4 yards, something along those lines, or a dump pass that'll get you 9 on 3rd and 7. And so I don't know that you can count on Baker. I don't know that you can count on the wide receivers or the tight ends. But here's the other problem, Dave. We keep hearing about the Browns and their rushing attack, and I want to believe it. I just said I want to believe it. But then you have people saying, well, there's no way you can run against the 8-man box. You mean to tell me no team that has running on its mind in the NFL has ever been able to succeed against an 8-man box? Figure it out. Figure out a way to solve that problem. Okay, the Ravens are going to do what they always do. And in the case of Mayfield, they're probably going to say the same thing they said in Baltimore. We want Baker Mayfield to beat us, so we are going to try to take the runaway. Well, just because they say that and they show that, that doesn't mean you concede it. You can't just say, well, you know what? They stacked the box, so we can't run. Well, wait a minute. Why aren't you talented enough and smart enough to solve that?
Well, the flip side of it is they were kind of overloading the left side, and the Browns were still running to the side that was overloaded. So that's another thing that they just need to give Baker Mayfield a mechanism to get out of a play that is bad. So those are some of the things we'll be keeping an eye on. Baker Mayfield talked to the media today, talked about the team approach, where this team is as far as the playoffs go.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the mentality we went into the last 2 weeks is we still have everything in front of us. But now it's crunch time. Everybody's talking about playoffs, but that's when we need to have that, singular focus, block out everything else and realize that, we need to take care of business one day and 1 week at a time. I mean, yeah, right now we're just looking at a one-game season at a time. So everything that we can accomplish is still in front of us. So if we handle it correctly, that'll happen that way. So just have to do so accordingly.
In order for that to happen, Dennis, we have to see something we haven't seen all year. We have to see consistency. That's why the team's 6-6. They've been inconsistent. If they consistently play like this roster can play, they have the ability to make the playoffs. Do I think they're going to? I don't know.
It feels like this season we're trying to get blood out of a stone, talking ourselves into, all right, this team can legitimately go on a run. But the reason we're even doing it, the reason we're even talking this way, is because the math says that the Browns still have a pulse, both in the wild card and the division. I happen to think the divisional route is, I wouldn't say easier for Cleveland, but less crowded and there's more of an opportunity in the division, I think, than there is in the wild card. But I mean, think about what happened this past weekend while the Browns were sitting at home resting or doing whatever they do, but making sure they get rested. The Bengals were getting punked by the Chargers, and then the Steelers were coming back to beat the Ravens in Pittsburgh. So all of a sudden you're the Browns, you wake up Monday morning or go to bed Sunday night, and you're saying, gee whiz, we got a chance here, especially with Baltimore up next. And yeah, I mean, they have a chance, but the question is, like you said, will they be able to put it all together? All I'm asking for Christmas, okay, Sunday against the Ravens, early Christmas present for me, Cleveland Browns. How about you play well offensively, defensively, and special teams all in the same game? That's a novel concept, isn't it, Dave? Everybody play well at the same time, and I'm willing to bet you, Monopoly money, of course, because wagering isn't legal in Ohio. I'm willing to bet you the Browns would be good enough to beat the Ravens if they had successful days in all three phases.
Yeah, I would agree wholeheartedly. So the question was put up on ESPN's Get Up. Can the Browns run or done? So in other words, do they make a playoff run or are they done? Here is Kimberly Martin from ESPN's Get Up answer to that question.
I'm going to say run only because if they don't, Baker's not going to get the money that he wants. He's got to get this team to the playoffs because his future depends on it.
Well, they need to literally run, right? And by that
run
maybe
the
we mean
ball, Kevin.
Chubb and Hunt and stuff.
And again, D-Man, can they make a run? Absolutely. Would I wager that they're going to? No. Would I be surprised if they do? No. I don't think anybody can tell me they know what to expect from this team because I don't think Kevin Stefanski knows what to expect from this team.
You're right, David. I want to go back to that clip you just played. There's a bit of a contradiction there, and I'm not trying to get after whoever said it. I think it was, would you say Kimberly Martin? Because, okay, she said the Browns are going to go on a run because Baker needs to get paid, and yet the way to do it, it was agreed upon on the set was to run the ball. Well, if the Browns have a really successful rushing attack for the final 5 games and it gets the Browns into the playoffs, well, then how much glitter is on Baker Mayfield? I mean, how you would think that he's not making that many throws that are dazzling, which would then translate to bank. So I'm not sure if the Browns are able to get in and they use rushing as their primary means on offense. I don't know that changes the calculus on Mayfield because the front office is still going to be wondering, is this guy capable of throwing for 350 and 4 TDs if we need him against quality competition?
And those are questions that the Browns are going to have to figure out. They don't need to figure it out now. They probably don't need to figure it out at the beginning of next season. But before they extend Baker Mayfield, they need to figure that out. The D-Man, Dennis Manoloff, and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. We will continue to talk about the Browns getting ready for the Ravens. We will hear from Baker Mayfield about how he feels after this bye week moving forward. Sports for CLE. I'll be right back. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Back to new friends, new classroom, and learning new things. Back to wearing shoes, man, like real shoes. Back to rushing to class. Back to having questions. Lots of questions. Back to vending machine dinners. Back to too much caffeine. Too late at night. But feeling like it was a night well spent. Back to pursuing your dreams and taking control of your future. Come back to go forward. Try C, where futures begin.
Browns getting ready for the Ravens. First Energy Stadium, 1 o'clock on Sunday. Baker Mayfield has been banged up. So the question was, how much did the bye week help him? And how does he feel going into this final 5 games? Can he play his best of the season?
Quite a bit, to be honest with you. So, I haven't had any major setbacks in the past few weeks and then having another week off. So looking forward to, keep getting better as the weeks go on. Anytime you can kind of step back, kind of reevaluate everything, come back into the fresh mindset and realize where we're at right now and just have that 1 week at a time mentality. And, it is what it is. So that's where our heads are at, and that's where I play my best.
And Dennis Manoloff, again, just the way Baker Mayfield is wired and operates, if you tell me he's going to come out and play as well as he has all season long in the final 5 games, I'm not going to doubt it. But you haven't seen what we need to see in the first 12 games.
That's true. It's been a difficult year for Mayfield, no doubt, well chronicled on the injury side of it. And then you've also got the suspect performance that not all can be, not all of his bobbles and wobbles can be tied to his injury situation. There are circumstances around him that you would like to be better, but he hasn't been good enough. And so can he carry this team on his back? I don't know that's true. And you just said too, you're not sure either. I don't know if anybody really knows that. Will he be asked to carry his team if Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb are as good as they can be, and if this line can punch holes in a stop the rushing game defense, does Baker have to be a superstar? No, he's proven he doesn't have to be if the Browns win. For the Browns to win, he doesn't have to put up unbelievable numbers. So we shall see.
Yeah, and again, if he plays well in the final 5 games, the first 12 tend to be minimized. If you're in the playoffs and you're winning playoff games, those games get minimized a little bit.
And Dave, I'll take one. I'll take one. I mean, again, going back to my early Christmas present, Browns, please give it to me. Baker, play well on Sunday against Baltimore, win this game, turn this season on a dime. I mean, think about it. You go 7-6, and you put the Ravens on a 2-game losing streak and drop them to 8-5. Now all of a sudden you're sniffing the division. The AFC North is a big old pig pile. So just one quality win, quality performance by Bake with quality from his teammates across the board. That's all I ask.
All right, so this one is interesting. Early down passing and rushing efficiency, and this is a chart. You see where the Browns are? They're over there with the Buccaneers and the Rams and the Cardinals. Those are offenses you want to be hanging out with. What it shows you is early downs, the Browns are very efficient, both running and passing the football, which they've struggled to score, so that tells you there have been a whole heap of hurt in 3rd downs and 4th downs for this Browns offense. If they're doing that well early downs, that means 3rd down has been, I don't want to say a disaster, but a disaster.
Yeah, and you could trace it to any number of factors. It's not just one thing. Baker hasn't been good enough. The rushing attack when you need certain yards based on blocking and everything else, because I'm not going to take on Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt and say they're playing poorly. But the offensive line hasn't held up when it needs to. And there is the coaching aspect of it, too. And Kevin Stefanski in his 2nd season as an NFL head coach and 2nd season as a play caller, he's constantly told us, I need to be better, I need to be better, I need to be better. Well, okay, I mean, one of the reasons why he's had to say I need to be better is because he hasn't been good enough calling plays that make defenses go wow, or that, make them nervous, or create chunk plays or explosive plays. So some of it is on Stefanski as well.
Yeah, I would. That's hard to debate. So Kevin Stefanski talked about preparing for the Ravens when you're likely not going to have David Njoku and Harrison Bryant, and also expecting that the Ravens going to load that box to try to shut down the run. Here's Kevin Stefanski from earlier today.
I think there are things we can do, Scott. Those are kind of the conversations you have about, what plays do we want to run? What personnel groupings do we have to be in those plays? And then ultimately, is it worth putting a guy out there that hasn't done that? So those are all conversations we have. And again, I think it goes back to, as coaches, we just got to make sure we put a plan out there that the guys can, number one, play to the best of their ability, but also play fast and not be thinking a lot. Certain teams play different styles, and there's advantages and disadvantages to all of them. With all those players up at the line of scrimmage, sometimes they bail them, sometimes they bring them, sometimes they bring them from the weak side, sometimes they bring them from the strong side. So I think that's they do a nice job with their scheme, keeping you off balance and not knowing when they're coming and which side they're coming. But ultimately for us as coaches, on the flip side of that, we have to put together a game plan that can account for those type of things and then go make a big play. When you don't have that many guys up at the line of scrimmage, there should, in theory, be some grass opened up in the defensive secondary.
And the flip side of that also with Chubb and Hunt, if you break 1 or 2 tackles when there is an 8-man box, numbers say there isn't anybody that's going to be able to chase them down.
Yeah, and again, I appreciate Kevin Stefanski being, available to the media. But where was this thought process going into the Baltimore game in Baltimore. I mean, I saw one of the least creative play sheets ever with the Browns and the way they tried to poke holes in you knew what Baltimore was going to do. They had to know. If they didn't know, they knew. If they didn't know going in, they knew after the first series that Baltimore was going to commit to stopping the run, and yet there was no counterpunch. There wasn't any legitimate counterpunch. So you would hope with a bye week that the Browns brain trust, and I'm giving them credit. I'm not being facetious here. You've got Ivy Leaguer Stefanski. You have Van Pelt. You have Hall of Fame in waiting Callahan. If Andrew Berry and Paul DePodesta want to chip in with the game plan, you got more Ivy League knowledge. You guys have got to come up with a better approach to the Ravens defense than you did a week ago Sunday. And certainly no excuses coming off the bye.
Yes. All right, we're going to move on. Mike Tannenbaum, quarterback rankings. This is from ESPN. Oh, you're going to love this one, brother. So you've got Matt Ryan at 18, Taylor Heineke at 19, Jalen Hurts, Jimmy Garoppolo, Trevor Lawrence at 20. Does this guy actually watch these games? Because I've seen these guys play quarterback, and I'm like, no thank you to many of the guys that he lists in front of Baker Mayfield. Then you got Roethlisberger, Bridgewater, and Wilson. So that seems awfully low, even for a beat-up Baker Mayfield to me.
Well, first of all, I'd put Roethlisberger ahead of the Bake Show. I think Roethlisberger with the Steelers has played a little bit better than Baker. But yeah, I mean, if you're talking about, again, this is the question I always have for people who make quarterback rankings or do quarterback rankings. Are you doing it based on what you see 10 years down the road or even 5 years down the road? Or are you doing it based on the current season's performance? Because I'll listen to somebody who says, well, over the long haul, Trevor Lawrence will be a better quarterback than Baker Mayfield. But I've kept pretty good track of what Jacksonville's done this year because of Urban Meyer being the coach for his first go-around in the NFL. And I'm telling you, Trevor Lawrence has stunk. Okay, I don't care if anybody wants to come up with some kind of metric, he stinks. All right, at this moment, he stinks.
Well, and the one thing about Roethlisberger, I've watched him play, and I mean, he's really on his last legs. I mean, he's struck. It's a good thing Deontay Johnson can run fast because that's adding to his yards per catch. And Chase Claypool has disappeared from that offense, but.
Yeah, and I think, Dave, the reason I have Roethlisberger edging Baker at this moment is because Roethlisberger's deep ball is better than Baker's, and it's shown up this year. That said, Baker would say, well, you give me some explosive targets on the outside, and I'll be just as good, if not better, than Roethlisberger with the deep ball. I get it, but
he's got a window. Roethlisberger has a window, and Mayfield has like a peephole to throw through deep.
But let me just say this. Even if I keep Roethlisberger behind Mayfield, come on. I mean, Lawrence and Garoppolo, and those kind of guys being ahead of Baker, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I agree. The D-man, Dennis Manoloff, and I are going to step aside, take another time out on the other side of the break. We're flip sides of the ball. Take a look at some defense as the Browns getting ready for Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. Sports4CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to OhioLottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. We continue to talk Browns, getting ready for the Ravens, and we're going to look at the defensive side of things for the Browns. Most touchdown passes allowed through 13 weeks And you see the Browns are in some company you don't want to be in as far as defenses go. They've allowed 22 touchdown passes. Now the Browns have gotten significantly better the last couple of weeks, minus that Patriots game. But still, 22 touchdown passes allowed is a concern without question. And some of those you can contribute to the quarterbacks they're playing, D-Man, and some of them earlier in the season. You know, Mahomes racked up a bunch, Kyler Murray racked up a bunch, Herbert racked up a bunch. So that's how they ended up at 22. They've been pretty good as of late.
Yeah, they've been pretty good, and it was really unfortunate that the defense had played really well overall against Baltimore, but gave up that touchdown pass when Lamar Jackson was backpedaling about 10 miles and then unloaded it and broken coverage in the end zone. Mark Andrews, the TD. That was too bad because the Browns D had been really good. And I'm telling you, the Browns have the blueprint to at least bother Lamar Jackson. It was provided by the Miami Dolphins in Week 10 on Thursday night when the Dolphins won 22-10, and they blitzed the heck out of Baltimore. They had the walk-up 46 style pressure, and the Ravens never really solved it. Well, not only that game, but then the two subsequent games that Jackson has played, the Pittsburgh game and the Cleveland game. Matt Bowen of ESPN, the outstanding analyst, just tweeted today that Jackson in those three games was blitzed 54 dropbacks, and his total QBR in those 54 dropbacks is 9-something on a scale of 1 to 100. So, and the one game that the Ravens played that didn't involve Jackson was in Chicago. Jackson was ill. So he's played 3 games, including that Miami game, since Miami's D showed that sort of walk-up amoeba scheme, and he hasn't responded well to it. And that includes the Cleveland game when the Ravens won, but they only won, 16-10. So I think the Browns should continue that trend and continue to blitz the heck out of Lamar Jackson. Don't let him sit back and pick you apart or find a running lane. You got to speed up his clock. You have to speed up everybody on that offense's clock and take your chances that way.
Well, yeah, and Denzel Ward spoke about that. Ward talked about the Browns blitzing Lamar Jackson and then putting him and other cornerbacks man-to-man coverage on an island, if you will. Here is Denzel Ward from earlier today.
I look forward to those opportunities to kind of flush the ball out to us, out to the corners, to be able to make plays. So, I enjoy those coverages and just being able to get action on the ball.
Talked about it a little bit after the game, Denzel, but obviously Lamar likes to go to Mark Andrews.
Mm-hmm.
Does it feel like any time that the play breaks down that's kind of like his first guy that he looks to, and you guys have to be aware of that?
Yeah, like you said, he's a playmaker. He's able to extend plays. That's definitely a guy that he looks to get the ball into his hands, or Brown. So, he definitely has playmakers out there. But, yeah, I would definitely say he tries to get the ball in their hands.
How difficult is it, Denzel, when he can take off and run at any time? You have to be aware of that, of course, but you still have to stick with the guy you're covering. How difficult is that?
Yeah, it is a little difficult, but we just got to do our job and stay on our man and go play for however long the play is.
And D-Man, one of the things, I loved what Joe Woods did against the Ravens. Your cornerbacks seem to like playing that, and your defensive line definitely likes it. So turn them loose.
That's absolutely right. Hey, listen, I know Joe Woods, in his DNA as a DC is about, four-man pressure, and as long as I've got my edge rushers, I could get home, and I don't need the blitz. But I think in the case of Baltimore, this particular team for this particular time, they are rattled right now. That offense is rattled by what the Dolphins, the Steelers, and the Browns have thrown at them. Why not continue it and make Jackson speed up his clock, figure things out much quicker than he wants to? And, of course you're talking about discipline rushes too. When you say, all right, we're going to blitz an extra couple guys. We're going to rush a total of 6. It doesn't mean you're reckless. I mean, you still have to stay in your lanes, and you have to make sure that he can't pop out. But show him at the line of scrimmage all kinds of exotic looks and make him think like, what am I going to do here? How much pressure am I actually going to see? Because not only can you be effective with blitz pressure when you do that kind of stuff, you can be effective with zone drops. And because it's ghost pressure, the quarterback might think, oh, geez, here they come. And then all of a sudden, 4 of them drop off the line of scrimmage and only rush 3. So it's the illusion of pressure combined with the actual pressure. I think that's the way you at least contain the Baltimore offense at this time. Maybe they solve it eventually, but I don't think they're close to solving it yet.
The D-man, Dennis Manoloff, and I are step aside, take one more time out. On the other side of the break, we will hear from Kevin Stefanski and Baker Mayfield about the Ravens. Plus, D-man and I renew our Pick 4 segments for picks against the spread, including the Browns. Sports4CLE, be right back. Stay with us.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a line. A long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just a mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Browns getting ready to face the Ravens. Ravens come in 8-4, Browns 6-6. If they can knock the Ravens off, just a game behind the first-place team in the AFC North. Kevin Stefanski and Baker Mayfield talked about the Ravens facing them in back-to-back weeks, sandwiched between that bye.
Big challenge versus the Ravens. Obviously, a unique scenario to play them back-to-back with the bye in between. But really looking forward to having a great week. We had an extra day here on Monday with the guys coming off of the bye. Got some really good work in on Monday, and then today is Wednesday, and we got to have a great Wednesday. So that's kind of where our focus is.
Yeah, I mean, it's something unlike anything I've ever had before, is coming off the bye and playing the same opponent. So, you're watching a ton of film. You don't want to take that for granted, but we need to know our opponent, which is a division opponent, so we should already, but it's definitely different, and we need to go in there with the same mentality. It's going to be a physical game and have our best game.
All right, Dennis Manoloff, it's time for our Pick 4 segment. We've had a couple of bye weeks. We strung together some bye weeks. Back in Week 11, you were 2-2. I was 3-1. So for the year, you are 16-19-1. I am 21-15.
Wow.
Yeah. All right. Trying to curse me here. All right. First one we're going to do, we always do the Browns. So Ravens at the Browns. Browns 2.5 point favorites at home. Who you going with, D-man?
I don't know what Vegas is looking at, okay? Do they think that the Browns were just deliberately sandbagging the Ravens a week ago Sunday so they could trot out all their real stuff this week? I mean, what does Baker Mayfield present to the Ravens now that he didn't present a while ago, a week and a couple of days ago? So that's the reason I have to, plug my nose and say I'm going to take the Ravens here, because I just don't trust the Browns being able to figure enough stuff out from just what would amount to 2 weeks ago.
I'm going to go with the Browns. I think they put together one of those Cincinnati Bengal type performances. I don't know if it is going to be sustainable. I think they're going to score significantly more than 10 points. Don't know what that is, but I do like them to win, and I do like them to cover, and I think they cover comfortably. So, again, I get your rationale. I just have a feeling that the Browns offense is going to put it together and that defense is going to come and play like they did. So I'm going to go with the Browns. All right, Cowboys at the Washington football team. Cowboys favored by 4. Who you like in this one, Dennis Manoloff?
Give me the Cowboys, Dave. The Washington football team is red hot with Ron Rivera and quarterback Taylor Heineke. I think, 4 in a row for them to get back into contention. But Dallas is better across the board, I think. I mean, maybe you'll find a few spots on the roster where Washington's better. But I think the better team in early December wins that matchup, so I'm taking the Cowboys.
I agree with you. I think Dak Prescott has a big game. I think the Cowboys defense gets it done. I like the Cowboys as well. 4-point favorites on the road against the Washington football team. All right, 49ers are a half-point underdog at the Bengals. So 49ers half-point underdog at Cincinnati. Who you like in that one?
I like the 49ers primarily because I don't trust the Bengals. They're just too flim-flam. They don't feel like a real legitimate contender. I'm not saying the Browns do. I mean, as somebody who loves the Browns and doesn't like the Bengals, I'm not saying that. But the Bengals in a vacuum don't look the part to me. There's too much inconsistency. They get down in games way too easily and by a bunch. I mean, you can go back earlier in the year when Jacksonville was trucking them for a while on Thursday Night Football in Cincinnati. So it's primarily because I don't trust the Bengals. And I know the 49ers are coming off a stinker in Seattle. But before that, they've been playing well. And I just think the 49ers are going to be able to win that game by at least 5 or 6 points.
And I'm going to go with the Bengals in that one. I think the Bengals offense has a big game. I think Joe Burrow has not hit Jamar Chase last couple of it's been a few games since Chase has had a big game. I think Jamar Chase has a breakout game. The Bengals get back on track. I think the AFC North is wide open, and I think the Bengals are in that mix with the Browns and the Ravens and the Steelers. So I'm going to go with the Bengals at home in that one. And for your final one, you got the Lions at the Broncos. Broncos 7.5-point favorites, facing the Lions coming off their first victory in dramatic fashion over the Vikings. So who you got? Broncos favored by 7.5 at home.
The Broncos, I don't know why I'm putting my faith in Teddy Two Gloves because he stunk out the joint against Kansas City. But that's a different animal, though. When you go from playing Kansas City in Arrowhead to playing the Lions in your house and you're still a contender as Denver is, then that should feel a lot better. And I'm looking at this as the ultimate emotional come down for the Detroit Lions after finally breaking the glass ceiling and snatching a victory over the Vikings. I see them going to Denver and the Broncos taking care of business.
All right, my final one, the Saints are 5.5-point favorites in New York against the Jets. And I'm going to go with Sean Payton and the Saints. Saints still somewhat alive with their 6-7 record in the playoff hunt because the back half of the NFC is kind of all jumbled. And I think Alvin Kamara coming back makes that offense very different. And the Jets are the Jets. So I like the Saints given the 5.5 in New York against the Jets. All right, D-Man, before we go, let's talk a little bit about the Browns-Ravens game. You've said you don't think the Browns figure it out. What are some key areas? If the Browns are, in fact, going to get a win, what do you think they need to do?
Well, first of all, let me say I hope I'm wrong. I truly do. I do not want to be talking about a 6-7 team on my WTAM postgame show late afternoon Sunday, okay? And I'm a Browns fan through and through. I hope the heck that I'm wrong. What do the Browns need to do to beat the Ravens? They need to have a better play calling day from Kevin Stefanski on offense. I'm not saying he has to reach into the quote-unquote bag of tricks, but he's got to come up with more creative ways to attack the Ravens front than he did in Baltimore, what is now, 8, 9, 10 days ago. That's number one. Number two, the defense needs to play well. And as part of playing well, or as the fuel for playing well, they need to blitz the living daylights out of Lamar Jackson, come from any and all angles, show 8 if you have to, drop a few guys, stand up, walk up pressure, make the offensive line and Jackson wonder where's the pressure coming from and how many people are coming, because even though the Browns' defensive DNA under Joe Woods is not necessarily blitz happy, you have to look at the results of the previous 3 games that Jackson's played and how the blitz has adversely affected his performance. So you keep going to that until and unless Jackson proves that he solved that Rubik's Cube. And then third, as I pointed out, Dave, give me quality plays, offensively, defensively, and special teams. Combined, give me a good day from all 3, and I'll bet you that even if the Ravens play a certain level, you can still beat them if your 3 units are all performing well at the same time. And when I think about special teams, if your offense doesn't have a lot of weapons on the outside, if the tight end room is danged and ill, if the quarterback is gimpy, okay, maybe you're able to run the ball, but you can't go into this game, even with running backs, and think, oh, we're going to score 30 points. So you got to figure out, where are these points going to come from? It would help if special teams came up with a touchdown. That would be a novel idea, wouldn't it? I mean, a kick return or a punt return for a touchdown, wouldn't that be fun? You know, I mean, Chase McLaughlin, make your field goals. Jamie Gillen, pin the Ravens deep so that the blitz is that much more effective. The Browns need the special teams to, be special for once.
I agree with you on the special teams wholeheartedly. D-Man, as always, appreciate the time and the insight. You can listen to him, WTAM News Radio 1100, 106.9. The D-Man, appreciate the time. Thanks.
Thank you, Dave.
All right, have a good one. Dennis Manoloff. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. We continue talking Browns and Ravens. Coming up, Tim Bielik from the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com, will join us. We will dive into who the national media thinks is at fault with the Ravens' Lamar Jackson struggling. Why is Lamar Jackson struggling? Straight ahead when Sports4CLE continues. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Back to new friends, new classroom, and learning new things. Back to wearing shoes, man, like real shoes. Back to rushing to class. Back to having questions. Lots of questions. Back to vending machine dinners. Back to too much caffeine. Too late at night, but feeling like it was a night well spent. Back to pursuing your dreams and taking control of your future. Come back to go forward. Try C, where futures begin.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
I am powerful beyond my wildest imagination.
I will define my future.
I will keep challenging myself to improve.
Because I am a future leader of this great nation.
I will be responsible for raising a beautiful family.
And educating not only my generation, but many more to come.
I will make a difference in my community.
And I will stand up for what I believe in.
I will not settle for simply chasing my dreams, I will achieve them.
Because I was given a chance.
An opportunity.
A home.
At Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America.
The ultimate leadership experience.
FCCLA has been one of the greatest experiences of my life.
It's made me who I am today.
Join us. We'll build a new future together.
Browns getting ready to face Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens, 1 o'clock First Energy Stadium on Sunday. Last 4 games have not been good for Lamar Jackson. 8 interceptions, 17 sacks in those 4 games. So what is the reason for Lamar Jackson's struggle? Here is what they were talking about, the reasons for that on ESPN's Get Up.
This is 4 games in. You've been blitzed since week 7 more than any other quarterback in the league, and your QBR is worse than the league. Let me tell you, I played with 2 Hall of Famers. One's in the Hall of Fame, one's going, and Peyton Manning and Aaron Rodgers. We spoke about blitz pickup every week at nauseum. They wanted to know, hey, are we going to pick it up and try to block it? Are we going to throw hot? Are we going to roll out away from it? What's our plan? And you have to take ownership of it if you're the quarterback. Greg Roman ain't out on the field on Sundays. He's not out there taking shots. And the plan can't be scramble around and buy time and throw the ball deep. There has to be bang, bang plays made from the quarterback position. And I do put this on Lamar Jackson because it is at some point your responsibility. I don't care what everybody else says. I remember Peyton Manning would have fights with coaches. They'd be like, oh, don't chase ghosts. And he would look at him and go, I'm not chasing ghosts. I'm out there. It's my job to make sure I protect myself. That's where Lamar needs to be.
All right, the best conversations are always the ones that we didn't plan. So let's just live in this a minute. Marcus, let me come to you. Because it feels to me like what I'm hearing here is the Ravens' offense is bad, which we all acknowledge. And I feel like I'm hearing here it's kind of Lamar's fault. And my perception of it is they're asking him to do the impossible. Who's right?
Foxy's right. Hey, let's simplify this. Let's simplify this, bro. Let's simplify this.
Yeah.
You got to stop throwing damn interceptions.
And let's welcome in Tim Bielik from the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com. Tim, let's hope he doesn't figure out what's going wrong until after the game on Sunday against the Browns, because that's the scary thing. Lamar Jackson hasn't been good, but Lamar Jackson is also the reason that the Baltimore Ravens are 8-4 this year.
No question about it. I mean, I talked about it a week ago when, we were talking about, why is Baltimore succeeding despite their injuries, but the Browns aren't? It's because Lamar's been healthy. And obviously, I think, he has taken a step back. And I think part of it is just the fact that the run game just hasn't been working the way it has for, most of his career. And I actually did some math before we came on for you. So I looked at the numbers. Last year, the Ravens led the league, averaging getting about 191.3 yards rushing a game last season. This year, 147.1. Not too bad on its own. It's one of the best in football, but that's a difference of 44.2 yards. Otherwise, if you take a touchback into the equation, that take the ball to the 20-yard line, that's half the football field. That's instantly 3 points that Justin Tucker gives you right there. And then the yards per carry is almost a full yard down. It was 5.5 a year ago to 4.6 this year. Their running game just isn't as dynamic as it has been because he doesn't have the guys in the backfield. Defenses, I think, are realizing that, and that's why I feel like they're keying more on trying to pressure Lamar. And obviously, we saw that really manifest, particularly in Miami. The Browns were able to do it to a pretty effective level, getting those 4 interceptions. I don't know if they can get 4 again, but considering Baltimore's offense is more one-dimensional against the run than it's really been in Lamar's time in Baltimore, that weighs heavily into why, even though they're winning, it's been tight for these guys, and why Lamar maybe hasn't been able to do what he has done throughout his career, and that's essentially be Superman.
So the other thing to take into account as we look at this Browns-Ravens matchup, the Browns have scored under 20 points in 3 straight games and 6 of their last 7. You're asking your defense to do an awful lot. Baker Mayfield talked today on the need to tweak the offense so that they score more points.
No, we absolutely are looking to just overall be better on offense, score more points, convert on third downs, just be better overall in those critical situations and capitalize when our defense is playing like they have been.
Baker, was there any need to kind of deconstruct the offense last week, or was it as simple as what you've been saying in that it's just more about execution, or do you guys have to do a deeper dive into really what's working and what's not?
I mean, anytime you're in a bye week, this goes for every team around the league. You do a self-scout. You kind of look at the bigger picture and of what you're doing well, what you're not doing well, tendencies and all that. So it's not necessarily deconstructing as it is just overanalyzing it and going into seeing what you're good at and trying to expand on that and fix the corrections you need to.
And again, Tim, if you're only scoring 20 points, you're asking a lot of your defense when you're facing the likes of Joe Burrow when you're facing the likes of Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert, go down the laundry list. Aaron Rodgers is on the Raiders score a lot of points. The offense has to be better, I guess, is the bottom line.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it wasn't at all good enough on that Sunday night in Baltimore. I mean, when you get those 4 turnovers and the best you can do offensively is 10 points, it's not going to get the job done. It's 2021. We're in a world in the NFL where you have to be able to score consistently to win pretty consistently. And again, as you pointed out, the Browns just haven't done that right by now. And I think there's got to be a lot of things done to this offense to really fix it. They got to find a way to be more unpredictable. And I know that's not going to be easy to do, considering there's still health issues with Jack Conklin now being gone for the season. Jedrick Wills, still maybe not being 100% off that ankle. Baker's injury situation kind of is what it is, but you got to find a way to scheme around that. You got to find a way to utilize Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt more, because those are the guys that are healthy. You got to find a way to get the ball out quick. You got to try bubble screens, try something to get the ball out quick, to take advantage of a defense that, is leaning heavy against the blitz like we saw the Ravens do 2 weeks ago. I mean, I think last week, I lamented the fact that they really didn't run a screen pass in that game. And I think we saw them do that a ton in the first part of the season. I'm kind of wondering where that went and why that hasn't been there. And the bottom line is, I think whatever they do, they need to be better at disguising what they do so they become less predictable, not just in looks, but in the way everything is run and play calling is concerned.
Yeah, it certainly seems like the league has adjusted to what the Browns did well. Let's take a look at this tweet. It has to do with passing yards. Browns have finished with 225 or fewer passing yards, league high 10 games. So 10 out of 12, not under 300, under 225. That shows you how much of a struggle it's been to get the ball downfield.
Yeah, and you can obviously point at the fact that your quarterback in Baker has just not been healthy pretty much since week 2 of the season. He hasn't been himself. It's clear it has impacted him. He might not say it, the team might not say it, but I mean, you're just watching the games out there. You're watching him not move around the way he normally does. He's indecisive. He's not seeing things for whatever reason. Maybe is because of all the pain he kind of has been going through, and his mechanics are just off and all that combined with the receiving core, I think, being very underwhelming, the pass protection, being inconsistent again with the injuries of the tackles. It's all kind of led to a snowball effect where it's just not helping Baker and this offense do what we all thought they were going to do. We all thought this was going to be the year that Baker took the leap to top flight quarterback. We saw flashes of that in the Kansas City game, but again, not having a healthy Baker has really, I think, hurt that, possibility. And I've said before, I don't think we get that Baker the rest of the season until he has surgery. And I've said before, I don't think this can get fixed without talent injections, but certainly you got to find more ways to be creative in the passing game to get the ball out of Baker's hands quick, run short passes, bubble screens, tunnel screens, be creative, whatever you got to do to get the ball out of his hands and get in the hands of your skilled players just as often as you can, just as easily as you can. And I know they've had separation issues as well when it comes to coverage, but this is the bye week. This is where you got to figure it out, because it's really sink or swim time for this offense, and they just need to find a way. That's all that matters right now. It's the old NCAA tournament adage: is survive and advance.
Tim Bielik from the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, we'll go a little deeper into the Browns-Ravens matchup. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Back to new friends, new classroom, and learning new things. Back to wearing shoes, man, like real shoes. Back to rushing to class. Back to having questions. Lots of questions. Back to vending machine dinners. Back to too much caffeine, too late at night, but feeling like it was a night well spent. Back to pursuing your dreams and taking control of your future. Come back to go forward. Try C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns with Tim Bielik from the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com. Let's take a look at this tweet. It's a computer cowboy tweet. We love these. A graph, if you will. Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, up high and to the right. Always the place you want to be. Yards over expected per carry versus the run blocking chart. And what that tells you is the run blocking is pretty darn good. Yards over expected carry is pretty darn good. And when you add that up, Tim Bielik, that's how you get one of the best running games in the NFL. Although it has struggled the last couple of weeks because teams are just loading up that box. But that's the reason you keep running the football. That chart shows you how good the run game is.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when you have those guys who are just obviously maximizing what the run blocking is giving them, and on this team, we know the run blocking on that interior offensive line is really good. And then you combine that with obviously two talented backs in Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, you're obviously going to get results. And, looking at the Browns, ninth in the NFL in rushing. They've had rushing attempts, 346. So they're running the ball a lot. I know they didn't run it a lot in Baltimore, and that drew a lot of criticism. But at the end of the day, you got to be effective with it. And it did not look like in that game they were going to find any way to run the football successfully. It just didn't look like it was there. And that's where, again, offensive creativity kind of comes into play. Everybody knows the Browns are going to run it. Everybody knows everybody's going to try and stop it. And in some ways, teams can't without committing massive amounts of personnel and playing downhill. So at some point, you got to find a way to counter that. And again, that's the quick passing game and playing on the perimeter. But as that chart shows, and as we've seen from Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, when they need to run the football, usually these guys can get it done.
Yeah, and that's the reason to keep running the football. All right, Pete Prisco from CBSSports.com picking the Browns-Ravens game prediction time. He goes with the Browns, 24-20 winners, and kind of points to the run game and keeping Lamar Jackson contained as the reasons he thinks the Browns come away with a win. Tim, I also have said I think the Browns are going to win. I think it's going to be a little bit more of a larger margin. I have no reason why other than I just feel like they're going to finally put something together similar to what they did against the Bengals. When you look at this game, what do you think?
I did my bold predictions on our Football Insider newsletter this morning. I went with Baltimore to win the game, and I just honestly think, regardless of all the problems with Lamar Jackson, the interceptions he has, the lack of an offensive line, the injuries on the offensive line into the running game and all over the defense, who's the best player on the field? To me, that's still Lamar Jackson, because all it takes is one bit of magic for him to beat you. And we saw that 2 weeks ago, scrambling about 20 yards down the field, somehow escaping every other Browns pass rusher on the way to throwing what ended up being the game-winning touchdown to Mark Andrews. I don't know if the Browns have the ability to make that happen. I feel like with their offense right now, they need a lot of things to go right for them to be successful. And I know the Ravens are banged up. I know they lost Marlon Humphrey for the season, but I just think they understand more than the Browns just because they're so experienced, how they have to play in a game like this, that they have to really bring their energy level. And in a way, I think that's kind of why John Harbaugh, this game was why John Harbaugh went for 2 at the end of the game against Pittsburgh, because he knew you got to play this Browns team again next week. They didn't want to go to overtime, make it even longer, make it even more grueling, just get it out of the way, see what happens, whether you win or lose, and save your energy for this game. And I think that decision combined with what Lamar can still bring, regardless of some of the inconsistency, I think that might be too much for the Browns right now.
So if I'm hearing you right, you think Lamar Jackson is going to figure it out, turn it around, struggle the last 4 games, and I get that. I'm not sure. I think he might struggle for another game. But is that what you're saying? You think Lamar Jackson puts it together and comes and plays more like Lamar Jackson than he has the last 4 games?
I think he's going to play better. I don't know how much better, but obviously, it's not saying much considering he just threw 4 interceptions 2 weeks ago against the Browns. I think he'll be a little better. He's seen this heavy blitz defense that a lot of teams have been throwing at him for weeks. I think he's going to start to figure it out. Maybe he has a turnover or 2 still because the Browns showed that they had the speed to match up with Lamar Jackson better than the years past. But I think when you have a very talented player, the most important position on the field, and he's still pretty healthy, and we know his talent level, I wouldn't put it past him to put something together to get the job done.
Tim Bielik from the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com. Tim, as always, man, appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Have a good week.
All right, you too. Tim Bielik from the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. Make sure you read him. That'll do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. We will see you again tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Scheduled guests, Browns beat reporters Scott Petrak and Sam Amico from hoopswire.com. That is tomorrow at 4 o'clock here on Sports for CLE. We'll see you then. Have a great night, everybody.